Well, hello everyone and welcome to the Bowling University studio from the International Bowling Campus here in Arlington, Texas. This is the Profit Break. Now, if you're joining us for the first time, we're glad you're here. Give us 15 minutes and you're going to be well on your way to improving yourself and your profitability. Now, if you're like most people in the out-of-home entertainment space, you're struggling with rising costs, staffing issues, and probably busy working in your business rather than working on your business. Now, we all know that being busy is not the same as being productive. Is there even any hope of achieving accountability and improving your team's performance? Well, hope is a terrible business strategy, but today's guest is here to help. On today's show, we're going to talk with CJ Lewis, who's the co-founder and COO of Jolt. CJ is one of us. He started in the ranks like you and I and began his career in the restaurant industry as a waiter. CJ, along with co-founder Josh Bird, founded Jolt in 2012 with the mission of creating products that make your life easier and your business runs smoother. And who doesn't need that? Now, today, Jolt works with top brands like Buffalo Wild Wings, Jersey Mike's, Legoland, Chick-fil-A. And what you may not know is that they're part of your BPAA SMARTBuy program as well. CJ, thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, pleasure. So, hey, before we jump into Jolt and talk a little bit about the industry as it is today, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of your background.
Yeah, I'm a native Gilbert, Arizona guy, born and raised, big G-Town fan, and have moved up to Utah where Jolt is now founded, and been here the last 10 or so years. Married, have 4 kids, and from a bowling standpoint, I am proud to say that once upon a time, I did get over 200. That's my claim to when it comes to bowling.
Awesome. Well, hey, we appreciate that there. So tell us a little bit about Jolt and its history. I mean, you're a relatively young company by as far as companies go. Tell us a little bit about how you and the co-founder connected and how you founded Jolt.
Yeah, so it's like many businesses, it often starts with a pain point. And so my business partner, Josh Bird, as you mentioned, we come from Baskin-Robbins. And so we were a franchisee for close to 10 years here in the state of Utah. And like many operations across the board, whether it's bowling or restaurants or entertainment of some sort, amusement park, many have come from paper-based processes. And that's what we use. We use what in the industry was called Red Book. And that's how we managed our day-to-day operations. And kind of the story we like to tell that really was like the final straw that broke the camel's back, because just like many businesses, we had lots of things that just stacked up. But it was 2009 and New Year's Eve. And I'm sure many have gotten this call. It's the call you never want, right? Josh was with his family wanting to go to a New Year's Eve party, and he gets a call from his manager who says, "Hey, Josh, all the ice cream is coming out of the walk-in freezer soupy." And I don't know the last ice cream store all of you have been to, but soupy ice cream is not what you want, right? And so long story short, we ended up losing about $20,000 of inventory just that night. Those are the kind of things that can shut down a business, right? And so what's crazy, though, to kind of tie it all together is employees at the store were taking temperatures correctly. Josh went back to this paper-based book he was using, and sure enough, you had all the temperatures of the walk-in freezer for the past few days. But you could see the trend if you looked at the paper, right? It started to increase over time. And what could have been it actually easily could have been avoided, because you could see back on the paper where it started to spike, and he could have fixed it earlier in the day, even a couple days earlier. But too little, too late. And even using paper-based processes, although doing it correctly, still ends in can be costly, right? $20,000 in our case. So that plus a whole other stories, which I'll not tell now, but you can imagine all the stories we dealt with, things not being cleaned properly, equipment, display cases, right? We could go on forever, but that was our story we like to tell of what really was the genesis of wanting to build Jolt.
Yeah, and CJ, I love that story, not because you lost $20,000 of product, never want to see a business over there, but I love that you have the entrepreneurial spirit, you see a need, you fill a need, and you develop the things in place using technology. So fast forward now, here we are with this great solution in Jolt. So let's start at 30,000 feet. Tell me a little bit about what the mission and vision is for Jolt.
Yeah, so that was again 2009. A couple years later, right? We formally founded in 2012, so we've been doing this about 12 years now. And Josh had the vision, right? He was using scheduling, using Excel, and some actually paper-based processes with scheduling. His point of sale, we're not a point of sale company, but his point of sale company switched 3 times during the 10 years. He did a lot of, when it came to communication with employees, using the whiteboard by the time clock, right? A lot of sheets kind of posted everywhere. He was using the paper-based book I mentioned, the Red Book. The corporate was using recipe cards on like this T chart thing is what they called it. What else was there? Labeling. They didn't really have a solution for labeling from a day dot perspective. And then sensors. He didn't have anything to monitor his equipment, right? And so the vision for Josh was he wanted a one-stop shop to manage your operations, right? Franchise in a box was a concept he said back in the day, but really take a lot of these disjointed systems and have one vendor to manage it all. And so that what Jolt has become today is not just a single solution for replacing pen and paper, let's say, but we're a wealth of different solutions that, when paired together, really create an environment of helping you manage every aspect from start to finish. When you open your store to closing your store, help you manage your operation. That was the vision of Jolt.
Yeah, and there's definitely a need for it. So let's talk about our industry. You know, I always love to get the perspective from an outsider, you know, who's servicing a lot of different channels and verticals. What are some of the challenges that you see with bowling centers, entertainment centers, and some of the pain points in their daily operations?
Yeah, Bart, you mentioned it that you liked our walk-in freezer ice cream store, not because we lost 20,000, but because it just brings up a very visual example of pain points people struggle with. And we have actually the exact same story with a recent a bowling center that has signed up with Jolt. And the reason what sparked their interest was a very similar story, not with the ice cream and walk-in freezer, but actually with their ovens. And so this particular bowling center has 3 ovens as part of their concept, right? Because they also do food as part of their bowling that they offer. And unfortunately for him, they had 3 of their ovens that are supposed to last years, if not a lifetime, if it's a big if, right? If properly cleaned. But unfortunately, because these ovens were not being properly cleaned, all 3 of them have broken down and had to be replaced. Now, I don't actually have with me the cost of that oven, but you can imagine how costly equipment can be. And certainly imagine it was in the tens of thousands of dollars, especially if you times that by 3 ovens. And so that's just one, again, that might be an extreme case when we talk about equipment, but it's things like that constantly. When things are not properly cleaned, when equipment is not properly maintained, when accountability is not there for employees in the stores, things fall through the cracks constantly. And it's those little things that add up to really kill the profit for these bowling centers and different groups. And so what this company did in going with Jolt was now the solution we offer is you can now perfect that cleaning standard operating procedure, right? So instead of having a situation where employees, whether they're new or old or been there a long time, and they don't know how to properly clean a piece of equipment, they now have at their fingertips when it's time to clean this piece of equipment, the oven in this case. You can put instructions there through text. You can also link a video, like a quick GIF. So if a person forgot how to clean, you can do a little video snippet, right? All when it's time to do that task. And so we call it just-in-time training, but that's just some of the problems we're seeing. And maybe I jumped the gun a little bit, but that's also how this particular partner of ours, this client, has used Jolt to help solve that so that they don't run into the same issue of their ovens not being properly cleaned. So hopefully that kind of highlights an example, and I could tell more, but I'll pause there, Bart, for any follow-ups on that story.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love that it's a bowling-specific example, and you're now getting into the bowling space, which is great. Obviously, you work with some world-class brands. But let's talk a little bit about maybe some of the other smaller businesses you work with that are using your product. And you kind of alluded to this a little bit in your previous example there. But is there anything else you can share with the viewers today that maybe other small businesses that may not have bowling, some of the way that they're using your product?
Yeah, we, as you mentioned, and you kind of alluded to this, it's like, what business in a way do we have being with bowling centers, given that we come from restaurants? Funny enough, our very first paying customer was a dentist office. And it's like, what does a dentist office have anything to do with the restaurant? And but right, how do these all tie together? Well, we'd like to say, Josh and I talk about this all the time, that we built Jolt in such a way that is flexible enough to help any sort of business with their day-to-day processes, right? Whether you're a dentist office, a bowling center, a restaurant, a convenience store, gas station, an amusement park, like, I don't want to call them all the same, but in a way, they have all the same challenges. They have all the same standard operating procedures, right? Every one of these businesses has to open. All of them have to close. All of them need employees that come in and do certain tasks throughout the day, right? Those tasks might look and feel different, might maybe different word choice here and there, but all of them have equipment to maintain, right? All of them have these certain tasks that need to be done. And so whether you're a mom and pop shop, kind of a smaller business, or, you know, a Fortune 500 company, Jolt does with the way we built Jolt is flexible enough to help you in your certain use case. We have a lot of single location businesses, a lot of small, what we call small businesses or mom and pop shops. And just remember, like, that's where we come from. Like, we came from being a single location Baskin-Robbins franchisee. Like, if there's any sort of small, medium business, it's us. Yes, we came from a huge behemoth, which is Baskin-Robbins as a corporate entity, but we were just in ourselves a single location franchisee. And so we come across this all the time where it's like, well, how can Jolt help me if I had the same employees that have been here for years, right? We have single location bowling centers, or even those without bowling, that still use Jolt, because at the end of the day, they still have teams that need to from open to close, manage these different standard operating procedures. And we've just learned that doing them in a digital format, the way Jolt has constructed our product, just helps them from open to close just be that much more efficient, that's much more effective, that much more profitable, because things are not falling through the cracks. And so I can give an actual example. We had a single location bowling center come to us, and one of the challenges they kind of brought up was, well, why do I need Jolt? Because or in the discussion with them, it was their question to themselves was, do we really need Jolt? Because we've had employees who have been here forever, let's say. And but the challenge we have found with that is people who have even been there a long time, they have, quote unquote, the tribal knowledge, but oftentimes tribal knowledge does not translate to training new people effectively, right? You're always going to have to train new people, whether it's kind of high school age kids or people coming out of college. No matter what it is, it might be their first job. Taking tribal knowledge and having that translate to a new employee can be difficult. And we have found that one of the challenges even very small businesses face is in the training of these new employees with people who've been there a long time. Things constantly will fall through the cracks of like, oh, I forgot about that piece. Well, now this employee didn't ever know that. And so again, things can just add up. And so with using Jolt, right, those things just don't happen anymore because you have like this, your perfect way, not that it has to be perfect per se, but in the way that you build Jolt, it's you can hand it to a brand new person, you can hand it to someone that's been there a long time, and they can just follow the instructions. It's right there at their fingertips on how to do things correctly. So hopefully I answered your question of like, we work with small groups all the time, and we've just found that it's these little things that can add up no matter your situation that Jolt can help with.
Well, CJ, you brought a smile to my face when you mentioned the term tribal knowledge, because we speak to that and talk about that here at the campus and university, you know, with our management folks and many of our members when they come in. So I've got time. I'm going to sneak in one more question. And honestly, this is a question we could open a good bottle of wine or go to Baskin-Robbins and have a Sunday and talk about for probably a couple of hours. But I think it's important that we at least start to scratch the surface on this, because what you're explaining makes perfect sense for some for your mid-sized clients, your larger clients that have these kind of systems already in place, because really what they're doing is they're digitizing them and putting them in a more efficient, effective manner. But for those clients that maybe are at that tribal knowledge, which many small business are, if you haven't documented the systems, can Jolt still play a role in getting this from tribal knowledge into the digital space?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and thank you for teeing that up, because something I should have hit with the previous question. But because I think it's important for people to know as a company that we don't come from bowling per se, but we come from like being in the front lines. Like, right, we ourselves have been a franchisee for years. And so we know what it's like to manage employees, manage an operation that you have to open and close. You're open 7 days a week, right? We've lived that. And we actually experienced the same tribal knowledge well, where in a way, Josh at one point took one of his best employees and said, hey, ready, set, go. Tell me everything that you do from start to finish. And they actually just together outlined an opening checklist, and then a midday checklist, and then a closing checklist. So our recommendation is, number one is, it's really not that difficult to take a moment, find your best performing people, and ask them, what are you doing? And then just document that tribal knowledge, and then we can get into Jolt very quickly. But I was going to mention, important to us coming from being a franchisee, is one of our core values as a company is what we call take care of the customer. It is really important to us that whether you're a single store business versus the largest of brands, that we take care of you just the same. And I think that's really important, because just because we were a single store owner, like, we'd want a vendor or a partner of ours to treat us the same, right? Now, clearly there might be a different allocation of resources. We get that, but every single business, no matter your size, goes through our customer success team. And so we have an implementation team and then an ongoing account management team. And you can expect that from Jolt, that when you sign up, we're going to help you. Like, we can't do everything for you, of course, but we're going to help you through that process of success. And so we'd help train you, we'd help consult, we'd help give you best practices from what other people are doing. And as you work with your team to take that tribal knowledge and document it, we can help facilitate that. And then we can actually help, as part of onboarding implementation, give you best practices on how to get that into the system. We have tools like importing, bulk importing, right, that just really make this process super easy. So you can go from tribal knowledge to a digital solution in a very, what can seem like a scary process, and we make that as easy for you as possible. So hopefully that helps kind of highlight that, Bart, that we can do for these different groups.
Yeah. Well, CJ, thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to meet you. There are a whole lot of people listening and watching today that can benefit from taking that tribal knowledge and putting it in that digital space. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Now, if you're ready to improve your execution and operate with peace of mind by moving from paper to digital, then you can learn more about Jolt at BPAA.com. Now, if you're ready to start improving your profitability, you can reach us anytime at education@BPAA.com. So as we wrap up another edition of the Profit Break, remember, when your focus is on growing people, people will grow your business. Now, this episode, as well as all our previous Profit Break episodes, are available 24/7 for you and the team at bowlinuniversity.net. Now, we have new episodes available every month. Mark your calendar, watch your email, join us on Facebook to hear all about the latest episodes. Until then, I'm Bart Berger, and remember, do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. We'll see you next time.